Hi everyone, I'm Wendy, and today I have a little bit different video for you. If you're new here, normally I'm sharing whole food plant-based what I eat in a day videos, recipes, and grocery hauls. But recently I've gotten some requests for my skincare routine, which still has a lot to do with what I'm eating. So in this video, I'll be sharing how I cleared my acne with nutrition, as well as some of the products I use to support my skin. I've tried many things over the years, so I'm going to go through the history of my acne and what I tried throughout time. Like many Americans eating a standard American diet, I developed acne in my adolescence, probably around age 12 or 13. At that time, it wasn't all that bad, it was just a few blemishes here and there, but as I got to high school, it got worse. And at that time, I mostly had whiteheads and blackheads, just your basic acne. I was just using whatever over-the-counter acne medications and face washes I could find, and those usually have things like salicylic acid and benzoyl peroxide in them. I tried many different ones. There was one popular brand, I'm not sure if it's still a thing, but it was called Proactive, and it was a 3-step face wash and other products that you used that had salicylic acid and benzoyl peroxide. And that lineup was kind of expensive, so I found an off-brand at Walmart, and that's what I used, as well as other products. I think some of these products may have helped, but more often than not, it just made my skin more red and inflamed and irritated. Eventually, I went to my doctor and she prescribed that I take the birth control pill, which I started taking the summer before I went to college. And it worked. I would say it took about 3 to 6 months to fully kick in as my acne slowly started going away. And then my skin looked really great. I still had breakouts here and there with hormonal fluctuations throughout the month, but overall my skin looked really great. And that's what I continued to do for about 10 years. I was taking the birth control pill. Then in my late 20s, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, which really kind of scared me. So I decided to take my health into my own hands and started doing some research, wanting to take a more holistic approach to my health. I wasn't necessarily always looking at the most scientific information at this time because I was kind of desperate. I was willing to try anything that could naturally heal my ulcerative colitis, and I also hoped that my acne might be helped in the process as well. But part of that was I started not feeling comfortable taking the birth control pill anymore, even though my doctor reassured me that it was totally safe, and for some people it might be a great option. But for me, I just started not liking the idea of messing with my hormones artificially. So I decided to stop that. If you're using hormonal birth control for acne and then you stop, it's very likely that your acne will come back. And that's exactly what happened with me. It didn't come back right away, it took a couple of months. So just like when I started, it took 3 to 6 months to kick in, it also took about that length of time before my acne started coming back. But it came back with a vengeance. It started with just a few blemishes, but then eventually my whole face was covered. And what's worse is, instead of just being basic whiteheads and blackheads like I used to have, now I developed cystic acne. This was really painful. And I don't have any pictures of the worst of it because I avoided taking pictures at that time, but eventually as my acne started healing, I did start taking more photos. So here's some where you can see it was all over my cheeks, some on my forehead, and even down on my throat. The cystic acne was really painful. It was always red and inflamed and almost made my skin feel hot all the time. It was very uncomfortable to deal with. So, like I said, at the time I was trying different things to see if dietary approaches could help with my ulcerative colitis and my acne. What I found then was Whole30 and Paleo style diets, which eliminates dairy and processed foods. These two things are great because dairy has been linked to acne, and some people say that processed foods can contribute to it as well. So when I removed those things, my skin did start to clear up, but it was never totally clear. I was also trying all kinds of more natural skincare routines. I was doing things like turmeric and honey masks and trying to use things like coconut oil to moisturize my skin. And once again, just like when I was a teenager trying all kinds of different products, I think some of these just irritated my skin more. Some of them seemed to help for a while, but then my skin would get worse, so I really just didn't know what to do with my skincare products. So eventually I just tried to get really simple so that I wouldn't irritate my skin more, and I focused more on the diet. Fast forward, and eventually, for other reasons, I decided to go vegan. And since I was coming from that paleo style diet, I was basically left eating only fruits and vegetables. So I slowly started incorporating more whole grains and beans as well, and stumbled into a whole food plant-based diet. As I started learning more about a whole food plant-based diet, I was really hopeful that my acne would go away. You hear all kinds of stories of people who go vegan and their skin just magically clears up. Well, that was not exactly the case for me. My skin definitely improved immediately upon going vegan. Within the first week, the really painful cystic acne was no longer painful. The redness and inflammation went down, and my skin didn't feel hot all the time anymore. So that was really great that I didn't feel bad anymore, but I still had acne all over my face, and I wanted to dig in a little more to see what I might be doing wrong or if there was anything I could improve in my diet. I came across some information and I found people like Nina and Randa Nelson, who are twins who cured their cystic acne with a low-fat whole food plant-based diet. So I decided to try their idea of going super low-fat. At the time, I had been eating a lot of oils and nut butters, so I cut those out completely, as well as some higher fat foods like nuts and avocados. I followed a lower fat whole food plant-based diet for about a year, and that really seemed to work. And during this time, I was still eating whole grains, beans, vegetables, and fruits, but instead of a variety of nuts and seeds, I was really just consuming flax seeds, and I was keeping all other high-fat foods low. Now that my acne has cleared up, over the last year or so, I've started incorporating more nuts and seeds and some of the other higher fat foods like avocados, but I still keep those quantities low, and I'm still completely oil-free. I was also doing a few other things, like I started incorporating larger vegetable smoothies into my day, so I was getting a lot more hydration and fresh vegetables every day. I also no longer consume chocolate. I found out by accident, really, that chocolate contributes to my acne. I'm very sensitive to caffeine. It makes me feel anxious and jittery. So around that same time, I had eliminated all sources of caffeine, including chocolate. But then one day I found some chocolate chips in the house, and so I ate some, and the next day my face broke out. My understanding is that there is some data to suggest a link between chocolate and acne, but it's still up for scientific debate whether it's the chocolate or some of the things that generally come along with chocolate, like dairy and sugar. These were vegan chocolate chips that I had, so there was no dairy, but they did have sugar. I decided to test it out for myself using cacao. So after that breakout cleared, I had some oatmeal with 100% pure cacao. And sure enough, my face broke out the next day. I tested this a couple more times just to be sure, and that was enough to convince me that I needed to eliminate chocolate if I wanted to keep my skin clear. But that doesn't mean that I can't have that chocolatey flavor. So now, instead of cocoa, I use carob powder, which is an alternative to chocolate that doesn't have caffeine in it. So it has a very similar chocolatey flavor without the caffeine. So my skincare diet is a well-rounded whole food plant-based diet with plenty of hydrating fruits and veggies and no chocolate. I've made many What I Eat in a Day videos, and I'll put a link for that playlist in case you want to see exactly the types of things that I eat to keep my skin clear. I also started exploring some skincare options at this time to help my skin along, because what I noticed was when I did have new blemishes, they were healing a lot quicker, but I still had some old blemishes that were taking longer to heal and some scarring that I needed to take care of. I'll show you all of the skincare products I use to help clear my acne and what I still use today. And I have an Amazon store with all of my favorite items linked below the video. This has my kitchen gadgets and other things, but I'll also have a section with my skincare items. I'm not sponsored by any of these individual companies. These really are just the products that I use every day. But if you do use my Amazon link, I might earn a small commission for qualified purchases. My skincare routine is pretty basic. I start with a gentle cleanser. I like this brightening cleansing gel from Acure, which is a vegan and cruelty-free brand. I use this in the morning and the evening. And then in the evening, I follow it up with a salicylic acid BHA liquid exfoliant. This is from Paula's Choice, and this product is also vegan. I don't think everything from Paula's Choice is vegan, but everything is cruelty-free. So if you're concerned about that, just make sure to check the ingredients of the individual products you use. I'm jumping in here to add an update because I discussed several Paula's Choice products in this segment. But shortly after recording this video, I found out that there was a class action lawsuit filed against Paula's Choice regarding whether or not they actually are cruelty-free, based on the fact that they started selling products in China, where animal testing is generally required. However, the animal testing laws in China have been changing, and there are certain loopholes regarding online retailers, so it's unclear where Paula's Choice falls in all of this. All of Paula's Choice products do have the Leaping Bunny certification, and at the time of this video, they were still listed as cruelty-free on PETA's website. But who knows what the outcome of all of this will be. I decided to leave this segment in, though, to let you decide for yourself, because these were really great products that helped me to clear my acne. This product really helped to clear up the last bit of acne on my skin, and it helped smooth everything out. And then after I use that in the evening, I follow it with a moisturizer. This is an oil-free moisturizer, also from Paula's Choice. I've tried a lot of different moisturizers over the years, and almost all of them contain some kind of oil. Like I said, at one time I was even using coconut oil on my skin. But when I started doing the lower fat, whole food plant-based diet, I also looked into oil-free moisturizers. This was one of the only ones that I could find, and I really love it. It really makes my skin feel very hydrated, and it doesn't make me break out like a lot of other moisturizers have in the past. While I was healing my acne and I had more scarring, I also used this azelaic acid booster from Paula's Choice as well. Azelaic acid is an alternative to retinols, and it helps to smooth out and heal scarring. When I was using this, I used it in the evening. And I'm not a dermatologist, so definitely check with your own doctor to see what's best for your own skin, because everyone's skin is different. But one thing to note is if you're using too many different products, you might dry out your skin and make things worse. So you want to start slow with all of these kinds of products. So when I was first using these products, I was using both the azelaic acid and salicylic acid, but I didn't want to use them at the same time. So I would do my face wash, azelaic acid, and moisturizer in the evening, and I would do face wash, salicylic acid, and moisturizer in the morning. Another important thing to note is that these are exfoliants. They're pretty gentle exfoliants, but it's still taking off the top layers of skin quicker than it would naturally. So it's making your skin a little bit thinner and more prone to sunburn. So it's really important to use sunscreen. It's important to use sunscreen anyway, but if you're using these, you definitely want to protect your skin. I prefer mineral-based sunscreens over the chemical kinds, and the one that I like is this native mineral sunscreen that has zinc oxide. These mineral-based sunscreens can give you a little bit of a ghost-like glow. I find that this one isn't too bad, but anyway, I would rather look like a ghost and be protected rather than get a really bad sunburn that's going to lead to skin damage and wrinkles and perhaps cancer. I also wanted to briefly mention makeup because people are often looking for vegan and cruelty-free recommendations. But unfortunately, I can't help with that because I don't wear makeup. I don't think I've bought makeup in over 5 years. But I will say that since cleaning up my diet and clearing my skin, I don't really feel the need to wear makeup anymore. Even when I have a breakout, overall my skin is so much better that I just feel better in my skin and I don't feel the need to cover it up. But there are many other resources out there and influencers who are specifically looking at vegan and cruelty-free brands, so I would recommend checking that if that's something you're interested in. So that's basically my skincare routine. It starts with a whole food plant-based diet made up of a variety of whole grains, beans, vegetables, fruits, and small amounts of nuts and seeds. I also use a few simple skincare products to make sure my skin is clean, hydrated, and protected. I can't say that my skin is perfect. If you look closely, I have a few blemishes here and there, and I still get a few breakouts with hormonal fluctuations throughout the month, but it's so much better than it used to be. My skin feels good, I'm not in pain anymore, and I'm so much more comfortable in my skin. If you have any questions about my skincare routine, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Okay, words. Make my mouth move how I want it to move. Okay. I use a gentle facial cleanser. Okay. Food plant-based diet full of a variety.